We'll file in slowly but surely. If you don't mind, for those of you joining, do you mind dropping where you're calling in from? Always curious who's closest and farthest away. For reference, Ava and I are in our office in San Francisco, and we are maybe a few meeting rooms away from each other. And Cassie is, I bet, is like in another meeting room, a few meeting rooms away from us. Oh, cool. Couple Texas folks. I love barbecue. So, yeah, I just love barbecue. India. Oh, that's probably going to take the cake for the farthest away. Indianapolis. Okay, been there before. All I remember is the Salesforce Tower there. So, cool. And if you're filing in, feel free to leave where you're calling in from in the chat. Wow, just a lot of like Texas, and then also words that have India in it. Indianapolis and India. Okay, we have, two Florida folks. Madison, Wisconsin, Seattle, Columbia. Okay. Nice. Nice to meet everybody. Cool. Yeah, I remember having cheese curds in Madison, Wisconsin. It was very, very good. Very tasty. Cool, nice. All right. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. I've been to St. Paul, Minnesota a couple times as well. Yeah. Ava, have you been to many of the like cities in the US? I'm actually curious. I haven't asked you about this.
I have been to a bunch of like random cities in the US, like some of the major metropolitan areas. Like I've never been to Chicago, for example, but I've been to like, I don't know, very small towns in like Arkansas and like Oklahoma.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes, I know I need to go to Chicago for sure. It's on my list.
That's funny. Cool. Oh, we have somebody in Bristol. Thanks for calling in. And I guess thank you if you're in India or UK or any of these countries on the other side of the world. I know these are oftentimes pretty hard to get the times to work out. But all right, cool. I think we probably have quorum now. We can kind of get started. So, welcome everybody to the Pylon webinar introducing phone and SMS that we released pretty recently. I want to start out with introducing our esteemed guests here, Ava, our founding product manager here at Pylon. Ava, do you want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, nice to meet everybody here. I'm excited to be working on a bunch of the products for you guys. I started almost 2 months ago now, so I'm really getting running just about now. And phone is one of the first products I've helped release, so excited to chat about it.
Sweet, nice. And on my side, I'm one of the co-founders here at Pylon and happy to uh, show you guys phone. So cool. Right off the bat, just to describe what Pylon is for all the folks here who might not know, we are an all-in-one support and success platform for B2B companies. And in particular, phone ends up being pretty relevant for those B2B companies who need to support customers who don't use a lot of those async communication channels that you might otherwise see at like a tech company who talk to other tech companies. So we do also support all of the original channels there, including Slack, Teams, Discord, WhatsApp, Telegram, like all of those new platforms, as well as all of the older platforms, email, ticket forms, chat widget via API, and now phone. So I'm really excited to announce this kind of expansion in the channels that we support and thereby like help you guys out there support a lot of those other customers who might not necessarily be on those async platforms. So cool. Nice. Why don't we get started then? I'm going to start peppering Ava with some questions here. So, first off, like, why did we even decide to build a native phone and SMS integration? Like, what were the alternatives? Why build it in house?
Yeah, so, in talking to a lot of people from our existing customer base, we have heard, if we're going to be a true sort of omni-channel solution, we need to make sure we're including all of the channels that are possible. So we have Slack and we have email and we have a lot of other sort of sources that we can kind of ingest from. But one thing that we were missing is phone. And when we were talking to all of our existing customers, one of the things that we kind of consistently heard was, oh, we're using, one of our competitive products that essentially it wasn't super smooth. It was in a totally different system. And then they'd had to go back to their either Pylon or other existing incumbent system that they were sort of like kind of living in two different places. And some of these competitive companies were able to do like integrations, but that was also kind of a clunky experience. And so we sort of started chatting with our engineering team, and we said, one of the things that could, help our customer base would be able to essentially incorporate like a phone type solution into our existing product and live natively. So it's not this clunky type solution. It's not an integration that maybe in some way conflicts with our product. And we decided to essentially build out our own phone product. So there's a lot of different reasons why we built it, but that's sort of the main one. And Robert, you can feel free to sort of answer any that or sort of add additional context if I miss anything here.
Yeah, I would love to actually dive into some of the personas of the folks who might be jumping into phone today with us. So, one could be somebody who doesn't have a phone system at all, and they're just getting started. Shout out to Katie who asked that question in the chat. Um, and I guess this next would be kind of somebody who might be on a phone system already, maybe like one of the separate phone systems from the ticketing system, that persona. And then I think the third persona is probably the person who is using one of those phone systems that's already baked into an existing support system, and like where we are better than kind of like all of those three different setups. So why don't we just start with the first one on like, if you're just starting with phone, I guess like what should you expect? How should you be thinking about this? How should you be approaching a phone?
Yeah. So if you're just starting out with phone, it might be something that you're not really sure if you want to fully sort of dive into yet. A lot of companies that we've talked to maybe don't necessarily want to give their support team, for example, a phone line, or their CS team a phone line. And so what we've sort of suggested is, be able to start with maybe just like one line and get a few people on it and kind of see how the phone product is working for you. It's really a great way to make sure all of your like existing communications are sort of like in this one place. We've talked to a lot of people who are like using their own personal cell phone numbers to call their end customers, or they're like trying to find some other way of communication, or like a Google Voice number as an example to talk to customers. And being able to sort of use that and additionally sort of log it in our system as an additional mode of communication, and then be able to have that, feed into like our other products like account intelligence and all of those things is a great way to make sure that you are, having all of the context of a single customer account in one place, basically. And so that's what I would say for people who don't have a phone product at all right now. This is a great way to sort of make sure that you're also capturing that information. And it's very as you'll see, we'll get into a demo here by the end of this, but you'll see it's a very sort of seamless workflow within the product.
Yeah. And maybe a follow-on question then for the folks here who haven't set up phone. I guess like why set up phone in the first place? When's the appropriate time to set up a phone system, and when should you just say like no, like we shouldn't set up phone?
Yeah. I think it depends on the way that you have sort of your team structured. So like if you want to, if there are sort of, end customers that you're dealing with that have maybe some of these like urgent things. We actually, for example, a customer asked us like, hey, we need you to give us a call like sort of ASAP. And we actually used our own phone product to make that happen, even though, we don't have a traditional phone line. And so as an example, and one of our CSMs used it. And so as an example, you might not want to give sort of like a phone line to your support to be able to reach them at any time. A lot of our closed beta customers were like that. They were coming from no phone product, but they didn't want to sort of like open the floodgates, if you will, to a support team. But they wanted to be able to reach out and sort of talk to some customer in a very urgent fashion that didn't necessarily, have to, be through Slack or be through like email or something like that. And so sometimes you just like need to talk to these customers on the phone. And that's exactly what we actually ended up doing this week in our own product. And so, and we don't have an existing phone product on our end, actually.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I totally agree with all of that, and how, if you don't have a phone line too, I think, like, there's also something about, like, thinking deeply about what your customers need and, like, do they actually truly need that urgent, like, phone line to call you at any time of the day, or is this something where you can set up some async comms, with them to submit tickets, where they can submit something that's urgent, and then you guys on your end handle it. I think it's always like risky to set up a phone line sometimes, and people will pepper you with phone calls all the time, and you want to kind of like ease into it if you truly want it. I think a lot of our customers and closed beta customers who we had talked to, their use cases ranged from like they help people get into apartments, and if you're standing there outside the apartment and the lock doesn't work, you do need somebody to call on the spot to unlock that apartment. So that kind of made sense for phone. Others were like, hey, they're like, if it's a payroll thing, you kind of need somebody on the spot because that's so urgent to resolve. So that's where another phone line comes into play. Um, or it could be something, not as urgent, so you can set up the callback flow as Ava was mentioning. So cool. Um, Great. So moving over to maybe the other two personas around those who happen to have maybe a phone system, but that's separate from their ticketing system, and that like kind of flows uh, into this question. I guess like what is the problem with having that separate phone system and SMS system outside of your support platform?
Yeah, there's a few. I've sort of heard from our customer base that it's just very hard living in two different systems. I think a lot of the reason why people end up, moving forward with Pylon is because they have like their entire tech stack is sort of fragmented in a way that has they're using a bunch of different products and they really only want to use like one. So in general, just for ease of use, like being able to move from two systems to one system is sort of like it is sort of the ideal there. But on top of that, if you're using an additional phone provider, an additional phone system, you're not able to sort of add in that context to like all of the great products that Pylon has already built. Like, as I said, including account intelligence. So if you are trying to sort of like use, AI to get an accurate read on sort of like the temperature of a particular account, for example, and you're leaving out a full channel of phone, then you're not going to be able to essentially really get an accurate reading of like, what is the sentiment? What is the general health of that particular account? And so, it's sort of like the ease of use from two different systems into a consolidation play into one. And the second thing is that you're sort of only answering like half the story if you're not able to somehow, pull that information into the Pylon products.
Yeah, and maybe just for the folks here who aren't familiar with account intelligence, do you want to give like a pretty quick cliff notes on what account intelligence is?
Yeah, account intelligence sort of overlays on top of like our support system, basically. And what it does, it's able to pull the context from every single, communication channel that you might have with a customer and be able to, as I said, give general health about accounts, give sort of, sentiment about accounts, give a lot of different information and metrics related to these specific accounts using AI and using a lot of different tools to be able to, kind of spot signals early about, what might be happening within an account. So as an example, if you kind of are across your customer base, if you're sitting there and you're like, I am kind of concerned about maybe customers who are going to churn this quarter, how can I essentially like get a better signal of what is happening across my entire customer base? You can use account intelligence to essentially surface up that signal and create what we call account notebooks to essentially be able to get an accurate idea of, is this a healthy account or should I be worried about this? Should I do additional outreach to this account? Should I make sure that I'm doing everything I can to keep this like set of accounts from churning. And this is all done sort of with AI, and it's the underlying data is sort of all of the channels that you're connecting into Pylon.
Yep. And maybe this is also a good segue into the two main use cases for phone. I think there's one on the support side and one on the success side.
Yep.
Um, could you maybe expand on those two use cases real quick?
Yeah, so the two use cases kind of to target the two different personas. From a support context, it's a very common sort of use case in the support context. We hear, customers or our customers essentially give their customers like a phone line to be able to reach their support team at any time. And maybe, when their end customers call them, you sort of have this round robin effect with phones where you can say, okay, I want people, I want the phone calls to queue. I want my support team members to be able to pick up these phones and be able to sort of give these like kind of urgent responses to people who are calling in. And that's sort of the very traditional case for phone. What our CSM team has been starting to do is, if they're on the CS side, is basically being able to sort of streamline those conversations. And if you're sort of talking to an end customer, what through some sort of channel, whether it's Slack or whether it's email or whether it's WhatsApp or whatever the case might be, if you need to give these people a call, it's just sort of a better way that now we can sort of pick up the phone and make sure that we are giving these people a call without necessarily sort of expanding that into our entire customer base and saying, this is the phone line to essentially get in touch with anyone on our CS team, which just isn't a great sort of use case for our CS team in general. And I don't think for a lot of people's CS use cases. So it's basically like a way on the support team side, it's basically a way to make sure that you're sort of just fielding sort of questions about your product or any sort of support questions that might come your way. And on the CS side, it's more of a management thing. It's like, I have a certain set of accounts that, I know this person prefers a phone call. I'm just going to use this number to sort of outbound to them and get sort of these conversations sort of logged in the Pylon system as well.
Yep. So it's almost like on the support side, it's more of like urgency, answering the questions as quickly as possible if your customers prefer that. And on the success side, it's way more of a relationship building activity. It's like, how do I
Yeah.
get close to my customer? It's going to be like
If
texting
I
and calling them.
if I had to sort of categorize it in two different ways, I would say support is maybe more of the inbound motion, like they're just sort of receiving phone calls, where CS is more of the outbound motion, where it's like I'm doing the relationship management and I need to be the one to reach out to this end customer.
Right. So cool. Nice. Maybe next question, and this maybe flows into the demo almost immediately, but what does the workflow look like when phone is live inside of Pylon? I guess like there's a
Yeah.
few high level flows that kind of come to mind, but yeah, the callback flow, voicemail flow, like inbound, outbound, but we might
Yeah.
need to just get into the demo for this.
I'll sort of speak high level and then we can get into the demo for it. So there's a lot of questions in the chat actually about just like general setup. And so at the very beginning, you have two options. You can either sort of, we can provide you with a phone number and a line, and you'll be able to see this in the product here, or you can port in an existing number. Either way, that's the way so you get a phone number in the Pylon system. When you have this number set up, and there's a bunch of different options we'll sort of go through, but you can essentially set up your IVR tree. And so that's that sort of classic, like you call and it's like, hey, press 1 to get to support, press 2 to get to billing. And so you set that up in the Pylon system, and it sort of directs to the right teams and the right, you kind of create the right workflows you need to within the product to make sure it's like sort of following exactly what you want it to do to get the right questions to the right teams. Or you can sort of just like direct your customers to leave a voicemail. I've talked to a lot of closed beta customers who want to do that as well. And that way your customers end up leaving a voicemail. It logs as a ticket within the system, and you'll see that here as well during the demo. And you can, text back to it. You can sort of create new tickets based off of it. You can call back from the ticket itself if you want to. And so that's sort of the way that you can, that the calls sort of flow into the system. And there's a bunch of other sort of functionality that we can get into, and I'll be keeping an eye and go through the demo. And so I can sort of try to answer questions as in real time as possible, and then make sure that we're covering everything that you guys have already asked. But that's the general workflow. There's a voicemail, there's the callback functionality. You can do transfers if you end up routing it to the wrong team for whatever reason and it needs to go to a different team. You can put people on hold, all of this stuff. And, we are always constantly, as I'm sure all of you Pylon customers know, we are always constantly developing new features and new products. So if you see something in here as I'm going through the demo where you're like, gosh, I really love this product, but I wish it had this, like, feel free to drop it in the chat. Feel free to reach out to myself or Robert. We're always going to be developing new stuff for the phone product as well. And so I'm happy to sort of show it to you guys and get your feedback on it.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, and with that high-level overview, let's dive into the actual demo then.
Sure.
This is going to be
I
very fun because I will be calling Ava here.
Yes, yeah, you'll see it on my screen here. Everyone can see my screen. Robert, can you just give me a yeah, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I
Cool.
wonder if so I see the camera in the bottom left corner. Doesn't it show up in the bottom left corner? Okay, cool, nice. Okay. So now we can see the pop-up.
Cool.
Cool.
So this is sort of the traditional Kanban view. As you can see, we've been doing a lot of phone calls to our support line here, but I'm going to start from the beginning and sort of show you how you would set this up. So you'll end up in settings. You'll scroll down here to phone and SMS. And you can see we already have a bunch of numbers here as well. We have our Pylon support line here, which is enabled for calling, enabled for texting, and is currently an active number. So that is what I'll be using to sort of go through this demo here. When you want to add a phone number, you can port in an existing number, as I said, or you can add a number. So if you just want to add a number, and this is provided by us, you can choose like any of the states. And then if you can sort of be like, okay, I want to have this number as my number. And then you can move forward with any of those lines and we'll be able to sort of provide this for you basically. And then, same with the port in an existing number, you can have the porting in your existing phone number and you can name it whatever you might want here. I will say if you do want to use SMS texting here, you'll need to go through the 10 DLC compliance. That's the way that we essentially kind of work with the carriers to make sure that your texts are sort of going through and not sort of bothering end customers, basically. So assuming you go through this flow, you'll end up in this page here. So you can see the phone number that we've chosen. I named this the Pylon support line. This is sort of the internal name. You can also add a caller ID name here. So for, when you're outbounding as an example, this was what would show up on your caller ID. It does take 1 to 3 days to change. So if you were to create a new number today, and name the caller ID something, just keep in mind it would take a few days for that to show up. You can enable calling. If you don't want to do the 10 DLC, you can disable texting here.
Yeah, there are also a lot of like 10 DLC questions that are popping up, I'm noticing. So maybe
Okay.
it could be good to maybe just answer those real quick.
Sure.
For the folks out
Sorry.
there. Yeah.
Me sharing screen, I very explicitly said I was going to have chat up, and then the second I shared screen, the chat went away. So okay, so 10 DLC. Is there I can just go through a few, so the last ones. Is there a cost to acquiring a new number? No. If you go through that add a new number flow there, that's something that at least within product, something that we can provide for you. I will say the phone product itself does have a cost associated with it, and we can go over it, or you can chat with your AE or CSM. But in terms of just acquiring the new number, there is no cost there. Okay, so is there a charge per number? We just went over this. Is texting possible? Are these numbers pre-configured with 10 DLC? As I just sort of showed you, you would have to go through and basically go through the carrier registration here. So you can see our 10 DLC is complete. And then does the system manage opt-outs, unsubscribes to SMS, or is there a list? Our system doesn't currently manage like unsubscribes to SMS, but I believe that's done through our carrier.
Yeah. I think there was also a question a little bit
Oh,
earlier from
sorry.
Jim on will SMS support like broadcast engagement and like kind of more marketing material?
It's not something that's currently built into product right now. I think that we want to chat with our vendor, our carrier, to make sure that is that something that is covered by 10 DLC? We just got to dig into that basically.
Yeah. And for now, just to be very explicit, like the goal is not to build a marketing text blaster.
Yeah.
It is very much to build kind of like that one-on-one interaction with your customers.
Yeah.
Um, so cool, nice. Um, I think that was all of the setup and porting
Cool.
questions. Some people have like very specific setups, but want to try and keep this more broad for the broader group, and maybe we can answer those closer to the end. So
Cool.
cool.
Yeah, Robert, I'm realizing I can't see chat as I share screen here, so feel free to call out any questions like as I'm going. But
Yeah.
uh, so we have our call flow here, which I'll get into in a second. Before I get into that, I just want to touch on the fact that we do have the option to automatically record calls if that's what you're looking for. We do have, if you have this feature enabled, if you're making an outbound call, it's going to remind whoever is making the phone call. We have an automation set up where it's going to remind anyone who's making the phone call, hey, just let the person on the other end of the line know that they're being recorded. And on the flip side of that, if somebody is making an inbound call to this number, before they're connected to an agent, they're essentially going to get a call that says something, or a automatic recording that says, just as a heads up, like you're being recorded on this phone call. And that we did that. We want to just make sure we're sort of compliant in the two-party consent states. And if you're not, and if you don't want to have that functionality, please feel free to turn off this automatically record calls. Those automatic sort of voice notifications through our phone sort of go away. If you do automatically if you turn off automatic call recording, you will not have, and I'll show you this here in a second, but you will not have the functionality that comes with transcription, playback basically from phone calls, and sort of the AI summaries that come with it. So just as a heads up there. And then just in general, you can port away phone numbers from Pylon as well.
Yeah. There's
Sorry,
also
go
a
ahead.
couple of questions too
Yeah, go ahead.
around specifically like phone numbers outside of the US. So um,
So right now we're currently only supporting US and Canada numbers. And so the +1 area code, we're not currently supporting international, but we are sort of we want to hear from you guys. Like basically if we're sort of getting a lot of demand from that, as I said, we're going to go ahead and build it, right? And so that's something that I want to hear the feedback from you guys before we sort of invest in it, because we want to make sure that we're building it the right way as well.
yeah, nice.
Cool. So say you've configured all of this in a way that you have, you want to. Now you're like, okay, if a phone call comes in, where does it essentially go? And that's where, building the call flow kind of comes into play. And so we've already built this, but I'm happy to sort of go through what each one of these little blocks means. So when a phone call comes into the Pylon support line, which is the phone number that we've sort of like double clicked into, we're saying start the IVR. So we say, hey there, thanks for calling Pylon. Press 1 to reach our support team. Otherwise, leave a voicemail and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. This is the text to speech option. If you want to, we got a lot of feedback from our closed beta that people want to upload like audio files as an example. And so if you want to upload an audio file to kind of have it sound like me talking or sound like you talking or whatever the case might be, you can do that here. And it's just sort of adding a file locally from your computer, basically. So those are the two options related to that. So if a caller presses 1, then I want to route the call to the Pylon support team and ring via round robin for 15 seconds. That means sort of like each caller has like 15, or each agent has basically about 15 seconds to answer the call before it moves on to the next person. We only want to ring users with the active status and assign to responder if the ticket that is coming in is unassigned. You can see here, this is sort of what happens if a caller presses 1. If a caller does not press 1, I want to send it to voicemail, which is what I said in sort of the text to speech. If nobody picks up here, what I want to have happen is send it to voicemail. And this is once again text to speech. Thanks for contacting Pylon support. We're unable to take your call. Leave a voicemail and we'll get back to you. So this is sort of like the classic phone like call flow that I've seen from a lot of customers. There are, you can make it as sort of like complicated or not complicated as whatever works for your team. But if you just want sort of the classic like press 1, otherwise go to voicemail. That is like sort of what we have configured, at least for the purpose of this demo here too. And if you're sort of looking for anything more complex than that, reach out, as I said, to your CS representative or whoever. You can essentially, they can help you set these things up. I'm sure there are questions I cannot see.
All good, yeah. I think another like pretty popular question that's coming up is more around how do you do a scheduled callback flow? Like, what does that end up looking like? That kind of thing.
We don't have any particular like scheduled callback flow as it currently stands. What that sort of looks like in our current flow would be that if somebody comes in, it kind of comes in as a missed call, which will flow into if nobody answers, as an example, which will flow into the Kanban board, which I'm about to pop into here, and you'll be able to see it sort of as a missed call, and you can create triggers that essentially assign it to the right team or whatever, and it kind of indicates that it's like somebody needs to call back that person. As I said, people can like leave voicemails too to be like, hey, I would love you guys to give me a call back, but there's nothing on sort of like a scheduled callback sort of cadence.
Yeah, the couple ways that I've seen this is they set
Yeah.
up inbound calls where auto replies like,
Right.
you reached our number, we're logging this and we'll call you back as soon as possible. I think the other way I've seen this is people set up a ticket form where you explicitly kind of write out your number, your name, what your
Right.
problem is, and it's like a callback ticket form. And so then the team will look at the information, prep themselves for it, and then give the customer a call. So that's probably like a heavier version of the former, but I've seen both of those so far. So cool, nice. A lot of questions on costs, but I guess you can think about pricing closer to the end. Let's see. Does this style of trigger potentially allow us to set up a phone tree, to give the caller an option to reach a number of different users? Press 1 for support, press 2 for Jim, press 3 for Jane.
Yep, that's exactly what it does here. So if you wanted to, you could add if caller, in your IVR, which is what you're essentially starting. It's like, hey, you can say whatever you want in this message. Press 1 for Jim, press 2 for Jane. And then what you would do in this step here is if caller presses 1, route call to Jim. And then you could add something here that says like if caller presses 2, route to Jane as an example. And then this else functionality here is kind of like anything outside of 1 or 2. This is, send it to voicemail.
Cool. Nice. Some questions on transcription. Yeah, okay. I think we can answer these by showing
Cool.
how the phone works. Yep.
Cool. So I think Robert is going to call me.
Cool. Nice. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to give a quick call.
So as you can see, Robert's calling now, and it just came in 9 seconds ago, but it will also pop up down here as I'm like a user. So it's go ahead and accept. And as you can see here, I've accepted the call, right? And it's kind of ongoing. It's got this like red indication here. I can pop into the issue and the call is in progress. I can put the call on hold if I want to. I can mute myself if I want to. There's a bunch of options here. You can transfer the call. You can use the keypad to enter in any extensions. This is especially helpful if you're doing outbound. I'm going to go ahead and end the call because I'm getting some weird hold music or something from the number Robert called me on.
I put you on hold because I was hearing you.
Yep, great. Well, I played very loud music while I was talking. And so as you can see, I answered the call here. It went on for 26 seconds. We're going to have this AI summary, and this is just me talking to you guys about how everything sort of works. You can go ahead and view the recording. This is the transcript, where once again it's just me talking, and you can play to sort of hear the call back as well. In that case, as you can see, this is the phone call. If you want to give a phone call back in the same ticket, you can just reply to the customer via phone call here, but you can also SMS text back to the same ticket. So, hey, couple follow-ups. Need anything else? And this should send to Robert in a text message here, which maybe he can confirm if he gets.
I just got the text, and yes, I still need help. Text that back. Cool. And while we, there it is. Cool. And while we wait for that, there was a question on, is the system recording and transcribing all the language or only native English call at the moment?
It should be all of the languages, yeah.
Cool. Nice. We're also getting a handful of questions on AI. So wonder if you could speak at a high level on the future vision of AI agents triaging. I'm thinking less send to voicemail and more AI agent gets more context than a voicemail and uses context to route call correctly.
Yes, that is a very big feature request that we have gotten from all of our closed beta customers and a bunch of different customers that we've talked to and prospects. That is something that we're actively sort of scoping out. It is not something that is currently built into product as it currently stands, but essentially what our initial thoughts are, exactly the way that you're describing the functionality. It should act as like a way to be able to either deflect in the right way or route in the right way to be able to essentially get the calls to the right area outside of this text to speech or of uploading your own sort of audio message as an example. So it's not currently, the long story short is it's not currently in product, but it's something that we're actively thinking about. And we want to hear, once again, more feedback from you guys to be able to essentially build it in the right way that kind of make sure it functions in the way that you would expect.
Cool, nice. There's also, Ayush, I'm trying to understand your question a little bit. Is there an AI agent setup possible a la 11 Labs type agent prompt? I know you guys are not building inbound agents. It's something we already do today, so it might be fun to do same guardrails.
Yeah, we might need to dig into that one, maybe more specifically for whatever use case you're looking for, but happy to chat about it.
Cool, nice. All right, great. So we showed both the call and the threading with the transcript and the summary.
Yeah. And so now you can see this particular ticket, which came in 1 minute ago, is on me because Robert had responded and I haven't responded back. If you want to create sort of just, say you're not getting an inbound call and you want to create this issue here, in the normal sort of create issue flow, you can, once again, use phone call and you can select the number that you want to call from and enter any of the contacts that might be in your organization to be able to call outwards. And that's how you can do sort of an outbound call without having to call back from an inbound call, if that makes sense. So just wanted to flash that on the screen as well.
Yeah. And now getting into a few of the corner cases. So if a user calls, but all the agents are busy, what ends up happening?
Yeah, you have to set up the IVR or the call flow in the right way so that you can kind of dictate the behavior based on what you want to have happen, if that's the case. A lot of our customers just end up sending it to voicemail if everybody is busy, and then it comes into your call as new sort of like missed call, basically, or voicemail.
Yep. And since you were the one who picked up my call, does it get assigned to you, or how does the assignment work?
It did automatically, yeah, it did automatically assign. As you can see, I didn't do anything. I just answered the call and it automatically assigned it to myself. But once again, you can sort of modify this behavior in the call flow.
Cool. Nice. Let's see. Is there anything around analytics and tracking calls and like who's answered? Yeah.
Yes, we have some basic analytics as it currently stands. So basically, like sort of the amount of calls that are coming in. Phone is now like an issue source, as you can see up here. So you can sort of cut a lot of our existing analytics by issue source as well to be able to sort of support phone. But we do have some of the basic call metrics, which would be like sort of numbers of inbound, number of calls sort of taken. You can split it by assignee, that sort of thing as well.
Yep. Another good question just came in, so it was hard to tell on the screen share. Was the incoming call notification a desktop notification or a notification in Pylon? And maybe this is a meta question on like how do you make sure you don't miss calls?
Yeah, so I guess a feature I haven't been able to sort of talk through quite yet. It did come in through Pylon. So we've heard a lot of customers say, okay, well, I'm not always in the Pylon system, right? So how do I make sure that that I don't, I don't miss any of these calls? And what we've essentially set up is the ability to more or less like forward your number to your personal, right? So if I wanted to, I could add my phone number here and then be able to enable forward incoming calls to your mobile phone. So if I'm away from the Pylon system and I wanted to add my phone number here, anything that was supposed to be routed to me and still in the round robin capacity, if you want, based on how the call flow is set up, it would just go to my personal or whatever number I end up adding here.
Yep. And then more on the pricing side, people are pretty curious about that. Yeah. So how do they start using this? Like, what does the pricing look like, and how do the seats work? Like, what kind of cost model is it?
Yeah, so we are providing some of our end customers trials. So if you are interested in a trial, please feel free to reach out to your CS person. Basically, the way that the pricing is working is right now it's priced at $35 per user per month, and that includes everything that you've seen here, plus like the any of the calling inbound or outbound, plus the SMS texting. As I said, everything that I've just shown you is included in that $35 a month pricing, per user per month pricing. And I think I saw a question earlier where it said, where somebody asked, like, do I have to buy it for my whole team or can I just do one person and then continue to add on? It's very much the latter. You can start with one at 35 bucks, $35 per month per person. If you are like, I actually really like this and I think I should scale it up for my entire team, feel free to sort of add as you go. It's not necessarily, yeah, like you don't have to buy it for your entire support team, or it's not like one to one with the amount of Pylon seats that you have in your organization. And so that's generally the way that we're doing pricing as it currently stands. And we sort of have talked to a lot of people when we were trying to figure out like how to price this particular product, and it is 35 bucks per user per month is what we consider sort of a competitive price.
Yeah. Cool. And hopping all the way back to an earlier question around seeing all of these phone conversations roll up to account intelligence.
Yeah.
I guess like for this is for Issam's question around. It sounds like he's doing a flow where he's copying the transcript, copying a bunch of Pylon context, and then throwing it into Claude to try and
Yeah.
get that. Um, yeah, mind maybe. I don't know if we can point out what it looks like, but like at least mind kind of describing what the normal account intelligence flow is off the.
Yeah. As you can see, sort of like if even if I was just doing sort of like if my team was only doing phone calls and I did have automatic call recording on, so all of the transcripts were sort of coming in and being able to, all of this would sort of bubble up to, and we're using as the account as an example. All of this would bubble, all of these phone calls would bubble up to the Boba Mentions account and basically be able to say, like, if somebody from the Boba Mentions account was very like unhappy with us, or they were very happy with us, or they expressed the need or want to be able to expand or whatever the case might be, all of those insights are extracted and being able to be bubbled up on the account layer. So when you're sort of looking across all of your accounts, you can sort of very easily tell, based off all of the signal that's coming in here through phone, based off everything that's said in the transcript, based off of all of the AI summaries, you can very easily tell, like, sort of your to-do list from a CS perspective, right? So who should I reach out to for upsells? Who should I reach out to because they express interest in buying more seats, or they express interest in buying X type of product? Who should I reach out to because they seem like they need a little bit more attention right now, based off the fact that their sentiment and tone, because of the AI summaries generated through the phone call, kind of indicated that they're not exactly particularly happy with us. So that's how the sort of CS flow kind of gets bubbled up, and it kind of can highlight those accounts for you that maybe need a little extra love or attention, based off, if you only have phone as a channel, based off of that as well.
Nice. Yep. And so that's kind of also what makes Pylon particularly powerful is this rolling up of the individual communications up to the account. So um, it's not just for you as the individual agent, it's also for your manager, also for the higher ups to try and understand like what's going on with the customer. So um, yeah, lots of good questions coming in still, so keep them coming. So, oh, this is a probably a pretty easy one. So, when creating, when after a phone ticket comes in, is it only SMS, or can you also open up an email thread or like any other way to communicate with the customer?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. As we were sort of building out the phone product in general, we sort of were thinking through while we were scoping it. We said there was probably going to be a need to be able to respond to some of these tickets, like via email, as an example. So it's not currently in product, but it is something that we're currently building out, is the ability to be able to have one, like, merge sort of tickets from different channels so that all of the context can kind of live in one ticket. That's one of the things that we're building. But the second thing that we're building is the ability to be able to respond to emails from these phone tickets as well. And kind of the reason why it's not built in product yet is because we had to build sort of that functionality to be able to merge tickets first, because that's sort of the underlying architecture, and then we'll be able to sort of do the cross source sort of responses outside of just phone and SMS.
Cool. And then more of a security kind of question is like, how long are the transcripts stored, and are there any guardrails on users in Pylon accessing those transcripts?
Ooh, everything sort of lives in terms of guardrails. Everything sort of lives under the RBAC structure that currently exists in the Pylon system. In terms of transcript storage,
I think like just to be clear for Sarah here, we do in our RBAC system, you can filter down like
yeah.
the set of issues that people see. And so like oftentimes customers will have both their support team and their legal team and maybe their compliance team using Pylon. And so what people do is only the legal team can see the legal issues. Only the support team can see the support issues. And that's how they filter it down so people don't see information they're not supposed to be seeing. So hopefully that answered your question. So, cool. Nice. Um, Going deeper into some of the flows now. I know, Heron, you have a lot of very deep questions in your giant block of questions. Um, Also, we can probably answer Dominic's question first. Is the call routing time-based? Um,
I'm not entirely sure what that means. Is it
yeah,
like,
I'm going to interpret that in two different ways. One is in support hours versus out of support hours.
yes.
Can you set that up? Okay,
Yeah, you can set that up. I didn't show it in the triggers here, but you can do that. Essentially, if you wanted to be able to add a flow, and you can do support hours, and you can say is in or out of support hours, basically, if you want to do it that way.
cool, nice. And then the other way to interpret it is uh, when somebody calls, like whether there's like the 15-second timer on like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so,
I touched on this earlier, but happy to sort of reiterate that, like, this 15 seconds here means that if there are multiple people on your team, it will ring for 15 seconds before it moves on to somebody else, if you're using round robin.
yep, cool, nice. And just to also reiterate, if it's out of hours or nobody's available or anything like that, you can always have it like go to voicemail or like have some backup flow.
Yep. Yep.
Like that's here. So cool, nice. Great. And then is it possible to route calls based on user skill? Ooh.
Not yet. Not quite yet. We have, as we were building out the phone product, we know that, like, in Teams, for example, there's the ability to sort of like build out, skill-based teams as an example. That is not something that currently is supported in phone, but we it is something that we want to have as a more or less like a fast follow after this particular launch.
Cool, nice. I think we've gone to a solid number of them. Um, there's also like kind of a question on maybe this is a follow on from the desktop notification question, but like early on somebody asked like, are we planning on building out a desktop app or mobile app? But I suspect that that's probably answered through forwarding of calls.
Mhm.
But let me know, Jim, if that wasn't your question originally. Cool. Nice. Let's see. Oh, Dominic also just asked a question about that. You mentioned the call forwarding earlier to forward your personal cell to avoid missing calls. Can you set a timer around that so calls only forward within a certain time period during business hours?
Yeah, you'd set it up the same way as that like IVR in the IVR flow that I just mentioned, the inside or outside of support hours.
Cool. Nice. Okay. Great. And then how do we sign up for to get alerted to beta features if people wanted to get into the closed beta or the open beta?
Uh,
Yeah.
well, we're no longer in beta, so now it's trials, right?
Yeah.
So as I said, if you want to sort of if you want to try out phone, reach out to your AE or your CS representative, and they can get you into a trial for phone. In terms of beta features in
This is more for
general,
like future facing.
yeah, that's what I was just about to touch on. Future facing, in terms of beta features in general, we sort of realized that there was a gap between sort of like our product development and being able to put it in front of you guys for you to try it out without like us kind of reaching out to you individually and making sure you have visibility into that, how that's into what we're releasing. And so what we've decided to do is we're building a release management platform basically. And so what that will allow you guys to see is the ability to see all of the beta features, all of the features that are available to be in beta as we're releasing them. And you can either opt in or opt out. It won't automatically opt you in, so you'll be able to opt in on this sort of like list of features if you want to try it out before we essentially put it into general availability. That's something that we're working towards right now, and that's something that we know that there's a gap because we want you guys to be involved in all of our new feature releases and be able to test it out for us and provide a lot of feedback directly to the product and engineering teams.
Yep. And up until now, it has mainly been you reaching out to your CSM and saying, I
Yes.
want this beta feature. And then we manually add you. So this will be
Yeah.
a lot more built out come that feature management project. So cool, nice. Yeah, Jim, oh, I see. You're more thinking general mobile app versus just for phone. It is a highly requested feature, and we've been thinking about it, but for now, we don't have any exact plans to build out mobile. But yeah, I mean, I oftentimes am lying in bed in the morning wanting to answer Pylon tickets. So I understand what you mean. When I like I'm picking up my phone, I'm like, I would like to reply. So um, cool, nice. Let's see, and then yeah, I think there's like a couple more questions that here in our is posting around reporting and like if you're a manager, kind of like what's your experience? How do you know? Or like do you have a dashboard with all the metrics? Like it's really going back to the metrics question and kind of like trying to reframe it as like just the manager. So I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit more. Uh,
Um, do you mean like
yeah, so specifically the question is what about reports and how would the phone dashboard look like being a manager to review? Um, and so I think the question is really getting at more of like, as a manager, how do you make sure that your team is like answering the phone calls correctly? Nobody's like dropping calls, things are getting answered. Uh,
yeah, right now we have sort of the basic analytics in phone, so you can sort of like view what we have available in our in our analytics dashboard. We're sort of continuing to build out like all of the things that are sort of going to be available related to phone, but because phone is a source, you can sort of filter all of our pre-existing metrics, you know, based on time to first response and stuff like that, through the with the phone product basically.
Yep. So essentially, it's leveraging all of our existing analytics, which is very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Cool. Nice. Great. And I know we're now popcorning questions quite rapidly here. So let's see, another question. Will the phones have voice isolation and noise canceling capabilities? That's an interesting.
Oh,
Hmm.
I don't think we've specifically built that into our particular product. Our provider is doing a lot of the heavy lifting there, and then our headphones are doing the other half of that heavy lifting. And so, but nothing's we've specifically built, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything that necessarily has to happen. I think technology through a provider and AirPod or headphones
Yeah.
are actually pretty good on this. So, um, cool. Let's see, and then here, and I'm not really sure what your question is on recording location, cloud or local infrastructure. Everything is done in the cloud. We don't really have any on-prem resources, if that's what you're referring to. Call recording location. Cool. Let's see. I think that's most of the questions. Jim, I know you had asked a question a while ago, but I think it's like a pretty specific question to your setup. So that might be something that we handle after the fact with the CSM or AE. Cool. Is there any possibility to send text messages to customers that no one is available to answer their call after hours? Yes, that would be through the trigger system. Yep. So, cool. Let's see if in the chat there's anything else. Jim, if the call gets forwarded to a personal phone, does the call still get recorded and transcribed? Or is it like a hard forward? I guess is the question. Yeah.
That's a good question. I have to double check, but I think it's a hard forward.
Cool. Yeah, but we'll have to check it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll circle back with that.
Cool. Nice. Okay, I think we got through all the questions. So that was a lot of them. Thank you, everybody. If you have any other lingering questions, feel free to reach out to the AE or CSM at Pylon. But yeah, we're very excited about our new phone launch. Please feel free to try it out, start adding numbers, and start calling each other. So. Cool, sweet. And I would like to also thank Ava for joining us today. This is her first webinar, I want to say.
First webinar, yeah.
Yep, so that's pretty exciting. And thanks to Cassie, who helped set this up on the Pylon side. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.